All right, guys, about 5 weeks ago, Master Lock announced this, a brand new product. A lot of you guys were kind enough to bird dog it for me. I went out and bought one. It's been back ordered, so it's taken a while to get here, but finally arrived. This is the Master Lock Portable Electronic Lockbox Model 5440D, as in Delta, and they cost $120 a pop. For that kind of money, I was really expecting some special stuff, and we're going to see. The first thing I do notice is this thing. It's impressive, at least in the weight. This thing is honking heavy, 1.23 kilograms, about 2.5 pounds. So that in itself should tell me heavy body, some kind of metal. Looks like aluminum of some kind. I don't know how thick it is yet. We'll take a look, but you can see that this thing would probably not yield very easily to a physical attack. And further looking at, other than the weight, the thing that I'm impressed by is there's no mechanical release on this. There's no lever. I don't have to punch in a combination and pull a mechanical lever down, and there's also no bypass, no lock, no pin tumbler, tubular lock, anything like that to bypass the electronic lock. It's 100% electronic lock. So right away, that ought to tell you that you're going to have to use an app to get into this. It's a Bluetooth lock. It does come preset with a combination just so you can try it out. I've already registered this lock, so the real combination is already set, but I want to show you what happens if you dial in the wrong combination. You get an indication here. If you dial in, it's a 5-digit code. So it used to be set to all zeros. You get a red indication. You can try that 3 times before there's an electronic lockout. I think it locks out for like 10 minutes before you're allowed to try again on your 4th attempt. So really good engineering, at least in terms of security on people trying to pick random codes. All right, I have already registered this. Let's go ahead and take a look. In order to set the combination, it has a preset 5-digit combination. They tell you what your combination will be when you look at your instructions. So in my case, it's 46202, but it doesn't work until you register the lock and download the app. So you're going to have to download the Master Lock Vault eLocks app from either the App Store or Google Play. So it does work on both iPhone devices and on Android devices. So we fire this dude up. Get this baby going. Here's what your app looks like. Just activate that guy, and immediately he'll pop up and he'll list all of the locks that you have registered. In my case, I've only got one Master Lock Bluetooth lock, and there he is. Click onto him, and as soon as you do that, it'll query and it'll do the Bluetooth link up, and of course all encrypted. I know you guys are going to say you can crack it. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it tells you what the situation is. He's locked. It turns the screen red. Now, whenever you get your device within Bluetooth range of the lock, that actually activates single touch opening. So if I get it within range, all I've got to do is come up to the lock and press any of the keys. It doesn't matter which one. Just press one, it will electronically give you green, and you can open it up. Now, this is normally hanging on like a doorknob or a piece of rail, so it's going to be oriented like this. So the door will come down, you can reach in, you can get your key out, unlock the door, put your key back, and then lock it. This will normally relock itself in 5 seconds, but as long as you leave the door fully extended, it will not relock. And here's why. They were smart enough to put in an anti-lock device. There's a little peg here that activates a small micro switch recessed down inside of there, so you can't accidentally bump it with the key or the key fob. So my mistake was I would open it up and then I would kind of lean it closed and I would do whatever I had to do. You'll notice it just relocked. So when I pushed to relock it, it wouldn't do it. So now you just simply push to unlock it again, then you can lock the device up. Now you'll notice after it closes almost immediately, you'll notice when I did that, I only got this door open. I didn't get the shackle out. So let's hit the unlock again. We obviously can open up the door, but the shackle does not remove. It's a completely separate locking mechanism. And we'll look at that closely in just a moment. In order to take the shackle off, to re-secure it on a piece of railing or a different doorknob, we actually have to go to the app. There is a manual way, and I'll show you all of that in just a moment. All we need to do is we go to the app, we press the Manage Lock button, and in the very center of the page, a lot of interesting stuff on there. It'll actually tell you where your lock is and all of that. We press the Remove Shackle. The app comes up. We press Remove Shackle, and the light turns green. And then, with a little bit of effort, that shackle will finally pop out of there. A couple things I noticed. It's really difficult to extract. And so looking down inside of there, you see some O-rings to keep moisture from infiltrating into the locking mechanism. On the shackle itself, we have a rubber cover, and it's like a little umbrella again to keep moisture from going down inside of there. Two more things I notice about this shackle. The first is it's only a 1/4 inch in diameter. Now, these are not designed to secure, like Fort Knox and things like that, but you're going to have them on Airbnbs. So I would think that you'd want that to be, a little bit thicker or at least very strong. We're going to check that out and see just how tough it is. The other thing I notice about it is that there are half-moon cutouts telling me that this is secured by ball bearings. So we're not going to be able to shim through this. Even if we cut away this outer cover, we're not going to be able to shim it, unfortunately. So let's slide him back in there. And he doesn't lock after 5 minutes, but he will lock almost immediately when you slide it back in. You get the indicator, you heard the click, and that was telling me that there's at least 2 solenoids down inside of here. There's a solenoid to secure the shackle, and there's also a separate solenoid to control the ball bearings to lock the door itself. So the question always comes up, what happens if I don't have my phone? Well, let's find out. Let's go ahead and get out of the program. On the program itself, it has what's called locker mode. So right here we have communications is enabled. If I'm going to lock, say, my phone in my gym locker, and for some reason I want to use this lock, all of their locks have the same program, but if I want to lock my locker door with this, as long as my phone is in proximity of that, anybody walking along can press any button and they can get into the locker. So what we want to do is we want to deactivate that. So let's go back and press this button and place it into locker mode. So that means the communications are disabled. Say OK, and now nothing we do here will open up this lock, nor can I use the anything to open up that shackle. I actually have to use the manual code. Now earlier I showed you what my combination was, 46202. I just dial it in, 46202, try and do this to the camera, and we get an open. But you notice my shackle, if I forgot my phone at home one day and I want to move my lock, how do I do that? Well, luckily they made a provision for that as well. All we have to do is this is called the clear button. You hold the clear button down while you press the first digit, so 4, and then we press the rest of the combination as normal. We get a green light, but the door doesn't come open, but the shackle does come out. So we can remove this either with the device, with the electronic device, or we can do it manually. So quite a good deal. So let's go ahead and open this guy up again for 6202 and take a look at some of the locking mechanism inside. The first thing I notice is we've got a cutout window here, quite a large window to fit the keypad. And my first idea was to somehow break this out and it would leave it vulnerable because that's where the good stuff is, the key or whatever. But I removed these 3 screws. There's one here and there's 2 down on the bottom. When this comes off, there's a metal plate behind the keypad. And then behind the metal plate is this very hard plastic inner cover. So that really wouldn't be, given how thin the shackle is, that's probably the easiest way to defeat this lock. So spending a lot of time with a hammer and chisel to go through this, through the metal plate, and then cutting a hole through that plastic just to extract the key just seems like the really difficult way to do it. It doesn't seem very practical. On the top here, we notice the 2 locking bars. Both of these also have half-moon cutouts, so the ball bearings are inside there. We'll take a close look at that in just a moment. Down below, we have a CR123 battery, which is supposed to last between 3 and 4 years. The question always comes up, there's no bypass on here. There's no keyhole, nothing. How do I, if the battery dies, how do I get into it? On the bottom, there's a little jumper, a couple of terminals here, and this little plastic piece. If you take a 9-volt battery and you basically press the contacts up against those, that will activate the keypad and will also allow your iPad device to unlock it. Or you can hold the battery up there and key it in manually. Either way, you can get an unlock, open it up, and you can then replace your CR123 as soon as you can. Moving down here, I already showed you the micro switch, but you'll also notice that the entire electronics package is in the door of this. The electronics package is connected to the locking mechanism, the servos, through a ribbon cable, which you can just barely see right there, which conveniently, at least I initially thought, is located right next to the jumper. However, my idea was to break the jumper out and then reach in there, fish out that cable, pull it out, figure out which two wires powered up the servos, apply some voltage, and then pop it out. Unfortunately, when I got to fishing around, that cable is very tight. There's just enough to allow it to close and no more. So you're really not going to fish it out. You could probably break this out, but then you'd have to, through that channel, strip the wires, connect, figure out which ones got voltage, apply the voltage. So again, it's possible, but it's not a very practical given the small gauge of the shackle. The other thing I noticed when I took apart the electronics is that there's a diode between, I believe it's between this terminal and the circuitry. The reason I point that out is because a lot of you guys are real quick to say, well, we can connect an oscilloscope to this, and as you punch on there, the feedback will be different for the real combination. And normally that would be true. It's a known hack, but the engineers at Masterlock were smart enough to put that diode, which of course robs us of that feedback from the circuitry. So unfortunately, that's not going to work. So wasted all that money on an oscilloscope, did you? All right, notice when we go back here, the ribbon cable goes back under that plastic, and there's two security screws. I did remove both of those, thinking that it would reveal some vulnerability, and it really doesn't. All it does is it protects the ribbon cable as it travels along the back here. So if you're thinking about locking up your pet ferret or maybe a rat or something inside of this box, he won't be able to chew through that, thank goodness. Also, if you're going to throw a bunch of keys in there, and when you go to yank them out, they're not going to snag up on that cable and tear the cable out. So it's just basically to protect that. The entire locking mechanism is here. There are going to be two servos in there. I have not disassembled it yet. There are no screws accessible from the inside, but you'll notice there's a threaded terminal here and here. So the screws go in from the top. And the first thought is to remove the screws and everything would fall apart. But unfortunately, remember, the solenoid is holding the shackle in place. And when it's locked, the solenoid and these two ball bearings are holding the door closed. So removing those two screws is not really going to do us any good. Yet, I am still going to cut all of this off at some point to see if there's some other unrevealed vulnerability. We're going to have to check that out. The thing I would like to do first, though, I'm going to lock this up. I've already got this deactivated, so let's go ahead and 46202. Lock it up. This is deactivated, so pressing any button is not going to open it up. The reason I point that out is because the first attack that I would like to use is a magnetic attack. I'm going to try to use a very powerful magnet, if I can drag it over here, this guy, to activate the servos to cause one, either the servo for the door or the servo for the shackle to unlock. In order to do that, there has to be electricity present in the circuitry. And that's only going to happen if the keypad is activated. So you're going to see me occasionally mashing on the keypad to keep it active while I do the magnet. And then I'm going to go around, I'm going to rotate this around to try different poles, different angles, just to see if we can trick one of those servos to unlock. So let me do that. All right, that was not so successful. I don't know why, probably because of the heavy shielding of this, or perhaps I'm not causing enough of a magnetic flux by rotating that powerful magnet. I'm not moving it fast enough to cause a wide variation in the magnetic field, to cause a little bit of jittering in the servos of the electric motor. So what I'm going to do, I've got some other magnets. I'm going to attach them to a shaft on a drill motor to increase the frequency and the spinning. And let's see if we can't try to trick it that way. All right, I got two very powerful little magnets taped to the end of a chopstick in my drill. Let's go ahead and see if this is going to work. All right, that clearly is not going to work. So I've been saving this next one for last because it's potentially destructive. This is actually recommended to me by a friend of mine, Alex Blate, a fellow lockpicker. He has a PhD in electrical engineering, and he suggested that I hit it with a degausser. So I'm going to have to back up my camera, my iPad, everything electronic, because I do have a degausser. It is quite powerful, and there's every possibility that once I make this attack that it's going to wipe the BIOS or wipe the circuitry, and this thing is going to be permanently disabled. But Doesn't matter because we've tried everything we can electronically. This is the final one. And I think from this point forward, there are going to be physical attacks. So let me go ahead and plug this thing in and let's give it a shot. All right, guys, that is it. I got nothing from this thing. No unlock, no nothing. So apparently the thick body of this is enough to shield it. So now we've got to kind of move to the physical attacks. I noticed on the door here, there's a couple of things. First of all, with this cutout, there's a very small segment here and here. There's a flange on the back, so it's a little thicker than it appears. So perhaps that may not be the best way by simply attacking it from the front. What I do know is that on the bottom here, on the hinge, while the hinge might be protected, it's inside of the lock. You can barely see the hinge pin. You have these hinge segments. There are 3 on the bottom here, here, and here, but there are 2 on the cast aluminum top. They look like they might be thin enough. If I can shear it with a ball peen hammer, say a strike there and a strike right there, there's every possibility. If I break that, I can pry this open enough to extract the key and the wild ferret from inside of here. So let me grab a ball peen hammer. I'm going to hold this in my hand. I don't want to attach it to my doorknob because I don't want to cause any damage to the lock lab, but I'm going to hold it in my hand and just give it a couple of strikes right there and a couple right there and see if we can't shear it along that line. All right, guys, I gave that more than a few cracks with a 24-ounce ball peen hammer. No luck. It did kind of start to fatigue failure, not in the way I thought, though. I thought these would completely shear off. I got nothing. It still works. I've turned on the app again, so it's still working. It's a little stiffer because I think I crushed that pin, but still works. Let's get back to it. Okay, the last thing I'd like to do is see if maybe Master Lock is hiding something beneath this really nice rubber cover. I'm going to cut all the rubber off and see if they left something open that we can exploit. But I think you guys see where the potential weakness is. We didn't have to beat on it with a hammer. We didn't have to use electric. I think we can probably, again, I'm going to leave it closed. I'm not going to open it. I'm just going to try to remove these screws and see if that allows us, because all we'd have to do is remove that rubber cover. Let me get the right screwdriver. That probably was the right screwdriver. Okay, if those posts don't spin out, there's one. Not gonna work. Let's just see if that one post comes off. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. All right, my bad. I stripped it using the wrong size screwdriver, but I don't believe they did this. The 2 locking pawls are held in place by Phillips screwdrivers. These are not threaded in there. The screws just go directly into the locking posts. If you remove the 2 screws, and without stripping them, of course, you will be in this box. All you got to do is peel this cover down out of the way, remove the 2 screws, and you are gonna be inside of this. How can you guys? Everything was looking so good. Not vulnerable to EMP, not vulnerable to hacking. You had the mechanics of the cabling right. You had the toughness of the outer casing right. You had no mechanical exploits, either mechanical switches or keys. Everything was looking so good. And then you do something like this. What were you guys thinking? Unbelievable. Anyway, guys, this was looking good. Don't waste your $120 on this Master Lock Model 5440D portable electronic lock box. I can't believe it. I wish I'd peeled that off first. We could have saved so much time. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal, and as always, you know what I'm going to say, stay away from Master Lock. Well, after some follow-on off-camera stress testing, the grade did not improve. Enough of this. Let's get on with the giveaway. I still have a few things left from LearnLockPicking.com. This is the last 17-piece lab lockpick set they donated, so you'll get that along with one of their training locks. This is the Ultimate Challenge lock. It is the 6-pinner. And on the 6-pinner, not only do you have one fewer chambers on this progressive lock, but the keyway is slightly less pair-centric than the Ultimate Adversary lock. Great training lock, particularly for beginners that don't want to have to fight those curvy keyways. So you get one of these guys, and if you're going to be loading this and repinning it, you're going to need a pinning tray. So I'm throwing in one of the Lock Labs pinning trays, and I'm also throwing in a spinner in case you get it locked and you can only open it one direction. You got a spinner, you can spin it around the other way. Also donated by learnlockpicking.com. And the last thing I have, kind of unusual, this is from Lockmaster. It's actually a credit card pick kit. They sent this to me quite a while ago, and I just ran across it in the giveaway box, decided to throw it in. I felt so bad about destroying that master lock. This is what I'm going to throw in to make up for it. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal. You want to know how to register? Stick around. I'll show you. Thanks, guys. All you need to do is navigate to locklab.com, the tribal website, and scroll down in the middle of the page. You'll see all the giveaway buttons, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But the one you're looking for is the Weekend Review giveaway, purple band. Just click on it. It'll take you to the registration page. Again, scroll to the bottom, put in a good email address, so if you win, I can get in touch with you, let you know. Put in a username, doesn't matter what it is, and click Submit. When you're done, you'll get a green check mark confirming your entry. Thanks, guys.